In biology and ecology, extinction is the end of an organism or of a group of organisms, normally a species. The moment of extinction is generally considered to be the death of the last individual of the species, although the capacity to breed and recover may have been lost before this point. Because a species' potential range may be very large, determining this moment is difficult, and is usually done retrospectively. This difficulty leads to phenomena such as Lazarus taxa, where a species presumed extinct abruptly reappears after a period of apparent absence. The age of the Earth is about 4.54 billion years old. The earliest undisputed evidence of life on Earth dates at least from 3.5 billion years ago, during the Eoarchean era, after a geological crust started to solidify following the earlier molten Hadean. There are microbial mat fossils found in 3.48 billion-year-old sandstone discovered in Western Australia. Earlier physical evidences of life include graphite, a biogenic substance, in 3.7 billion-year-old metasedimentary rocks discovered in southwestern Greenland, as well as remains of biotic life found in 4.1 billion-year-old rocks in Western Australia. According to one of the researchers, if life arose relatively quickly on Earth, then it could be common in the universe. More than 99% of all species, amounting to over 5 billion species, that ever lived on Earth are estimated to be extinct. Estimates on the number of Earth's current species range from 10 million to 14 million, of which about 1.2 million have been documented and over 86% have not yet been described. Through evolution, species arise through the process of speciation, where new varieties of organisms arise and thrive when they are able to find and exploit an ecological niche, and species become extinct when they are no longer able to survive in changing conditions or against superior competition. The relationship between animals and their ecological niches has been firmly established. A typical species becomes extinct within 10 million years of its first appearance, although some species, called living fossils, survive with virtually no morphological change for hundreds of millions of years. Mass extinctions are relatively rare events, however, isolated extinctions are quite common. Only recently have extinctions been recorded, and scientists have become alarmed at the current high rate of extinctions. Most species that become extinct are never scientifically documented. Some scientists estimate that up to half of presently existing plant and animal species may become extinct by 2100. Definition: a species is extinct when the last existing member dies. Extinction therefore becomes a certainty when there are no surviving individuals that can reproduce and create a new generation. A species may become functionally extinct when only a handful of individuals survive, which cannot reproduce due to poor health, age, sparse distribution over a large range, a lack of individuals of both sexes, or other reasons. Pinpointing the extinction of a species requires a clear definition of that species. If it is to be declared extinct, the species in question must be uniquely distinguishable from any ancestor or daughter species, and from any other closely related species. Extinction of a species plays a key role in the punctuated equilibrium hypothesis of Stephen Jay Gould and Niles L. Dredge. In ecology, extinction is often used informally to refer to local extinction, in which a species ceases to exist in the chosen area of study, but may still exist elsewhere. This phenomenon is also known as extirpation. Local extinctions may be followed by a replacement of the species taken from other locations. Wolf reintroduction is an example of this. Species which are not extinct are termed extant. Those that are extant but threatened by extinction are referred to as threatened or endangered species. Currently, an important aspect of extinction is human attempts to preserve critically endangered species. These are reflected by the creation of the conservation status, extinct in the wild. Species listed under this status by the International Union for Conservation of Nature are not known to have any living specimens in the wild, and are maintained only in zoos or other artificial environments. Some of these species are functionally extinct, as they are no longer part of their natural habitat, and it is unlikely the species will ever be restored to the wild. When possible, modern zoological institutions try to maintain a viable population for species preservation and possible future reintroduction to the wild, through use of carefully planned breeding programs. The extinction of one species' wild population can have knock-on effects, causing further extinctions. These are also called chains of extinction. This is especially common with extinction of keystone species. Pseudo-extinction descendants may or may not exist for extinct species. Daughter species that evolved from a parent species carry on most of the parent species' genetic information, and even though the parent species may become extinct, the daughter species lives on. Extinction of a parent species where daughter species or subspecies are still extant is called pseudo-extinction. In other cases, species have produced no new variants, or none that are able to survive the parent species' extinction. For example, it is sometimes claimed that the extinct Hyracotherium, which was an early horse that shares a common ancestor with the modern horse, is pseudo-extinct, rather than extinct, because there are several extant species of equus, including zebra and donkey. However, as fossil species typically leave no genetic material behind, one cannot say whether Hyracotherium evolved into more modern horse species or merely evolved from a common ancestor with modern horses. Pseudo-extinction is much easier to demonstrate for larger taxonomic groups. Lazarus taxa, the coelacanth, a fish related to lungfish and tetrapods, was considered to have been extinct since the end of the Cretaceous period until 1938, when a specimen was found off the Shalumna River on the east coast of South Africa. Museum curator Marjorie Courtney Latimer discovered the fish among the catch of a local angler, Captain Hendrik Goosen, on December 23, 1938. A local chemistry professor, J.L.B. Smith, confirmed the fish's importance with a famous cable. Most important preserved skeleton and gills equals fish described. Far more recent possible or presumed extinctions of species which may turn out still to exist include the thylacine, or Tasmanian tiger, the last known example of which died in Hobart Zoo in Tasmania in 1936, the Japanese wolf, last sighted over 100 years ago, the ivory-billed woodpecker, last sighted for certain in 1944, and the slender-billed curlew, not seen since 2007. Causes. As long as species have been evolving, species have been going extinct. It is estimated that over 99.9% of all species that ever lived are extinct. The average lifespan of a species is 10 million years, although this varies widely between taxa. There are a variety of causes that can contribute directly or indirectly to the extinction of a species or group of species. Just as each species is unique, write Beverly and Stephen C. Stearns, so is each extinction. The causes for each are varied, some subtle and complex, others obvious and simple. Most simply, any species that cannot survive and reproduce in its environment and cannot move to a new environment where it can do so, dies out and becomes extinct. Extinction of a species may come suddenly when an otherwise healthy species is wiped out completely, as when toxic pollution renders its entire habitat unlivable, or may occur gradually over thousands or millions of years, such as when a species gradually loses out in competition for food to better adapted competitors. Extinction may occur a long time after the events that set it in motion, a phenomenon known as extinction debt. assessing the relative importance of genetic factors compared to environmental ones as the causes of extinction has been compared to the debate on nature and nurture. The question of whether more extinctions in the fossil record have been caused by evolution or by catastrophe is a subject of discussion. Mark Newman, the author of Modeling Extinction, argues for a mathematical model that falls between the two positions. By contrast, conservation biology uses the extinction vortex model to classify extinctions by cause. When concerns about human extinction have been raised, for example in Martin Rees' 2003 book Our Final Hour, those concerns lie with the effects of climate change or technological disaster. Currently, environmental groups and some governments are concerned with the extinction of species caused by humanity, and they try to prevent further extinctions through a variety of conservation programs. Humans can cause extinction of a species through overharvesting, pollution, habitat destruction, introduction of invasive species, overhunting, and other influences. Explosive, unsustainable human population growth is an essential cause of the extinction crisis. According to the International Union for Conservation of Nature, 784 extinctions have been recorded since the year 1500. The arbitrary date selected to define recent extinctions, up to the year 2004, with many more likely to have gone unnoticed. Several species have also been listed as extinct since 2004. Genetics and demographic phenomena. Population genetics and demographic phenomena affect the evolution, and therefore the risk of extinction, of species. Limited geographic range is the most important determinant of genus extinction at background rates, but becomes increasingly irrelevant as mass extinction arises. Natural selection acts to propagate beneficial genetic traits and eliminate weaknesses, but a deleterious mutation can also be spread throughout a population through genetic drift. Because traits are selected and not genes, the relationship between genetic diversity and extinction risk can be complex. Factors such as balancing selection, cryptic genetic variation, phenotypic plasticity, and degeneracy all potentially play roles. A diverse or deep gene pool gives a population a higher chance of surviving an adverse change in conditions. Effects that cause or reward a loss in genetic diversity can increase the chances of extinction of a species. Population bottlenecks can dramatically reduce genetic diversity by severely limiting the number of reproducing individuals and make inbreeding more frequent. The founder effect can cause rapid, individual-based speciation and is the most dramatic example of a population bottleneck. Genetic pollution. Purebred wild species evolved to a specific ecology can be threatened with extinction through the process of genetic pollution, i.e., uncontrolled hybridization, introgression, genetic swamping, which leads to homogenization or outcompetition from the introduced species. Endemic populations can face such extinctions when new populations are imported or selectively bred by people, or when habitat modification brings previously isolated species into contact. Extinction is likeliest for rare species coming into contact with more abundant ones. Interbreeding can swamp the rarer gene pool and create hybrids, depleting the purebred gene pool. Such extinctions are not always apparent from morphological observations. Some degree of gene flow is a normal evolutionary process. Nevertheless, hybridization threatens rare species' existence. The gene pool of a species or a population is the variety of genetic information in its living members. A large gene pool is associated with robust populations that can survive bouts of intense selection. Meanwhile, low genetic diversity reduces the range of adaptations possible. Replacing native with alien genes narrows genetic diversity within the original population, thereby increasing the chance of extinction. Habitat degradation. Habitat degradation is currently the main anthropogenic cause of species extinctions. The main cause of habitat degradation worldwide is agriculture, with urban sprawl, logging, mining and some fishing practices close behind. The degradation of a species' habitat may alter the fitness landscape to such an extent that the species is no longer able to survive and becomes extinct. This may occur by direct effects, such as the environment becoming toxic, or indirectly, by limiting a species' ability to compete effectively for diminished resources or against new competitor species. Habitat degradation through toxicity can kill off a species very rapidly, by killing all living members through contamination or sterilizing them. It can also occur over longer periods at lower toxicity levels by affecting lifespan, reproductive capacity, or competitiveness. Habitat degradation can also take the form of a physical destruction of niche habitats. The widespread destruction of tropical rainforests and replacement with open pasture land is widely cited as an example of this. Elimination of the dense forest eliminated the infrastructure needed by many species to survive. For example, a fern that depends on dense shade for protection from direct sunlight can no longer survive without forest to shelter it. Another example is the destruction of ocean floors by bottom trawling. Diminished resources or introduction of new competitor species also often accompany habitat degradation. Global warming has allowed some species to expand their range, bringing unwelcome competition to other species that previously occupied that area. Sometimes these new competitors are predators and directly affect prey species, while at other times they may merely outcompete vulnerable species for limited resources. Vital resources including water and food can also be limited during habitat degradation, leading to extinction. Predation, competition, and disease. In the natural course of events, species become extinct for a number of reasons, including but not limited to extinction of a necessary host prey or pollinator, interspecies competition, inability to deal with evolving diseases and changing environmental conditions which can act to introduce novel predators, or to remove prey. Recently in geological time, humans have become an additional cause of extinction of some species, either as a new megapredator or by transporting animals and plants from one part of the world to another. Such introductions have been occurring for thousands of years, sometimes intentionally and sometimes accidentally. In most cases, the introductions are unsuccessful, but when an invasive alien species does become established, the consequences can be catastrophic. Invasive alien species can affect native species directly by eating them, competing with them, and introducing pathogens or parasites that sicken or kill them, or indirectly by destroying or degrading their habitat. Human populations may themselves act as invasive predators. According to the overkill hypothesis, the swift extinction of the megafauna in areas such as Australia, North and South America, Madagascar, Hawaii, and New Zealand resulted from the sudden introduction of human beings to environments full of animals that had never seen them before, and were therefore completely unadapted to their predation techniques. Coextinction. Coextinction refers to the loss of a species due to the extinction of another. For example, the extinction of parasitic insects following the loss of their hosts. Coextinction can also occur when a species loses its pollinator, or to predators in a food chain who lose their prey. Species coextinction is a manifestation of the interconnectedness of organisms in complex ecosystems. While coextinction may not be the most important cause of species extinctions, it is certainly an insidious one. Coextinction is especially common when a keystone species goes extinct. Models suggest that coextinction is the most common form of biodiversity loss. There may be a cascade of coextinction across the trophic levels. Such effects are most severe in mutualistic and parasitic relationships. An example of coextinction is the Haast seagull and the moa. The Haast seagull was a predator that became extinct because its food source became extinct. The moa were several species of flightless birds that were a food source for the Haast seagull. Climate change. Extinction as a result of climate change has been confirmed by fossil studies. particularly the extinction of amphibians during the Carboniferous rainforest collapse, 305 million years ago. A 2003 review across 14 biodiversity research centers predicted that, because of climate change, 15 to 37% of land species would be committed to extinction by 2050. The ecologically rich areas that would potentially suffer the heaviest losses include the Cape Floristic region and the Caribbean Basin. Mass extinctions. Marine extinction intensity during the Phanerozoic percent millions of years ago. KPGTR-JPTR Lake DOS. There have been at least 5 mass extinctions in the history of life on Earth, and 4 in the last 3.5 billion years, in which many species have disappeared in a relatively short period of geological time. A massive eruptive event is considered to be one likely cause of the Permian Triassic extinction event, about 250 million years ago, which is estimated to have killed 90% of species then existing. There is also evidence to suggest that this event was preceded by another mass extinction, known as Olson's extinction. The Cretaceous-Paleogene extinction event occurred 66 million years ago, at the end of the Cretaceous period, and is best known for having wiped out non-avian dinosaurs, among many other species. Modern extinctions. According to a 1998 survey of 400 biologists conducted by New York's American Museum of Natural History, nearly 70% believe that the Earth is currently in the early stages of a human-caused mass extinction, known as the Holocene extinction. In that survey, the same proportion of respondents agreed with the prediction that up to 20% of all living populations could become extinct within 30 years. Biologist E. O. Wilson estimated in 2002 that if current rates of human destruction of the biosphere continue, 1/2 of all plant and animal species of life on Earth will be extinct in 100 years. More significantly, the current rate of global species extinctions is estimated as 100 to 1,000 times background rates, while future rates are likely 10,000 times higher. However, some groups are going extinct much faster.